Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here, and today's video I'm going to be talking about science fiction, fantasy and paranormal series that I would like to start at some point this year. So I've been checking out my shelves and there's quite a lot of first books in a series and even second and third where I've got sort of, you know, the first, second and third in a series on my shelf that I would really like to start at some point. I've bought them and then I've just never started them because they felt like a commitment. And then when I started Shelf Slam this year, I haven't read because I've been nervous in case I love them and then I can't carry on because I haven't got any more books in the series. But I think that's a silly reason not to start, and so I've picked 10 off my shelf that I would really like to try and start this year and ones that have piqued my interest. So I'm hoping that you'll be able to tell me if you've read any of these and which ones I should start with. So the first book is The Demon King by Cinda Williams-Chimer. I've never read any Cinda Williams-Chimer and I've heard a lot on BookTube and a lot of people really enjoy these books, and even Robin Hobb has blurred it that The Demon King is a page turner for any reader regardless the age. So I really want to try and get to this at some point. It is, I believe, the story of a young man who lives in a village and he's taking care of his mother and his sister, and he goes out hunting with one of his clan members one day and he discovers some young wizards who are using an amulet to try and set fire to a mountain, or a magical mountain or a sacred mountain. And he wrestles this amulet from them. Little does he know it's some sort of special amulet that used to belong to the Demon King himself or something, which sort of sets in motion something. And also we've got a princess and we're following her story. So it just sounds really fun and unique, and it's something that I've not read before, so I want to see if Cinda Williams-Chimer's writing is for me. Next is a book which I think I'm going to like. I've heard plenty about it. It seems up my street. I think it's space opera-y, which I really enjoy. And that is Leviathan Wakes by James A. Corey. And this is book 1 in the Expanse series. So this is the story of a ship captain. It's set in a time when the humans have sort of colonized lots of different planets. And this ship captain goes out, what is it that he does? He goes out on an ice miner, making runs from the rings of Saturn to the belt, and he discovers this ship, and there's a lot of political intrigue, and there's a girl who's the key to everything. It just sounds really fun, and I've heard a lot of good things about this, so I don't know why I haven't started it yet. So I own quite a few of these books. I picked them up when I was in a charity shop about a year or two ago, and it's really time I tried some of this author's writing because I have a couple of series by her, and that is Tanya Huff, and this one is Vales Choice, which is the first in the Confederation series. The back says, in the distant future, 2 alien collectives vie for survival. When the Peace Confederation comes under attack from the aggressive others, humanity is granted membership to the Alliance for a price. They must serve and protect the far more civilized species, fighting battles for those who have long since turned away from war. Staff Sergeant Torin Kerr and her platoon are assigned to accompany a group of Confederation diplomats as they attempt to recruit a newly discovered species as allies. But when her transport ship is shot down, the routine mission becomes anything but, and Kerr must stage a heroic last stand to defend the Confederation and keep her platoon alive. This sounds proper girl kicks butt, and I really enjoy that. Next up is book 1 of the series by David Eddings, and it's The Diamond Throne. This is such an old school, like, mass market paperback with massive with teeny tiny writing and small pages, but I believe this is a story about a man. He comes back, he's a knight, he comes back from a journey to find his young queen is encapsulated in ice and is gravely ill and needs to be saved, and he teams up with a sorcerer sorceress and some other people to try and discover a cure to save her. It's sort of a questy story with some evil and magic, and it just sounds really good, and I don't know why I haven't started it. I sometimes get a little bit nervous about these older school fantasies, and I don't know why. For some reason I feel like I'm not going to be able to understand them, but I'll never know if I don't try. So this is another one on the list. Now this one is really inexcusable because it's so popular and I hear so much about it, and I've had it for so long, and I really should have started it. And this is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This is book 1 in the Kingkiller Chronicles, and I've heard it's brilliant and a page turner and a really captivating fantasy story. So I really need to get to this. And if I'm honest, I don't know much about it, and I don't think the back tells us much. It says, I have stolen princesses back from sleeping barrow kings. I burned down the town of Trebon. I have spent the night with Felurian and left with both my sanity and my life. I was expelled from the university at a younger age than most people are allowed in. I tread paths by moonlight that others fear to speak of during day. I have talked to gods, loved women, written songs that make the minstrels weep. My name is Kvothe. You may have heard of me. I don't know much more than that, but I am intrigued to find out. Next is a book that I know that Michaela Eve Reads loves, and so I picked up all of the books in this series. I think they're all out now. I think there's about 4 or 5, and I've got all of them. But the first one is called Air Awakens by Elise Cover, and she raves about this series, and so I had to pick it up, and I actually picked it up to read it yet. The back of this one says, the Solaris Empire is one conquest away from uniting the continent, and the rare elemental magic sleeping in 17-year-old library apprentice Vala Jarl could shift the tides of war. Vala has always been taught to fear the Tower of Sorcerers, a mysterious magic society, and has been happy in her world of books. But after she unknowingly saves the life of one of the most powerful sorcerers of them all, the Crown Prince Aldrich, she finds herself enticed into his world. Now she must decide her future, embrace her sorcery and leave the life she's known, or eradicate her magic and remain as she's always been. And with powerful forces lurking in the shadows, Vala's indecision could cost her more than she ever imagined. It's got libraries and magic. I'm bound to love it. Next up is a fantasy series which is written by Rachel Back, who wrote Fortune's Pawn, which is a book 1 of the Paradox trilogy, and the trilogy that I loved and I always rave about. It's a real good space opera, and she wrote a fantasy series under the name Rachel Aaron, and the first book in this series is called The Spirit Thief, and I've owned it for a couple of years and not read it yet. So this is the story of Ellen Mompress, who is a charming thief, but also he is a wizard. And it says here, with the power of his with the help of his partners, a swordsman with the most powerful magic sword in the world, but no magical ability of his own, and a demon seed who can step through shadows and punch through walls, he's going to put his plan into action. The first step is to increase the size of the bounty on his head, so he'll need to steal some big things, but he'll start small for now. He'll just steal something that no one will miss, at least for a while, something like a king. This sounds really intriguing. Next up, I think this might be middle grade, and it's called So You Want to Be a Wizard by Diane Duane. I've heard a few people talk about this. Again, it's a little mass market, but it's got big writing, and I've just heard that this one's really fun and everything a sort of middle grade fantasy should be. So this is the first book in the Young Wizard series. It's about Nita. She's going through some books on the shelf, and she's looking through all these books like, so you want to be a pilot, so you want to be an author, so you want to be a scientist, and she comes across one that says, so you want to be a wizard, and she can't believe it, and I'm sure it's going to go from there, and she's maybe going to go to wizard school. Next up is another book by Tanya Huff, and this is the first book in a fantasy series. So unlike her Vales Choice series, the Confederation I think it is series, which is sort of science fiction, this one is fantasy, urban fantasy, and the first book is called The Enchantment Emporium. So this is about a young girl called Alicia Gale. She's 24, she's unemployed, she's fed up with her family getting into her business. There's obviously magic in this, and magic that's just sort of commonplace for Alicia at least. She gets bequeathed her grandmother's junk shop on the other side of Canada. She goes, and things are not as it seems. It says she arrives at the Enchantment Emporium to find trouble brewing, with dragons circling the town and a sorcerer wreaking havoc. Even calling in her family may not save the day. So this sounds interesting. I am very hit and miss with urban fantasies, so I really like to find one that I enjoy. I struggle. I do struggle to find urban fantasies that I like for some reason. I don't know whether that's because I find it hard to picture magic in a more contemporary setting. I don't know, but I don't tend to get on so well with urban fantasies, but I'm hoping that this one will do the trick. And then finally is the sort of one paranormal series I'd really like to start, and that is House of the Rising Sun by Kristen Painter, and this is book 1 in the Crescent City series. So this has a lot of things that I like in it. It says every vampire, I quite like vampire books, has heard rumours of the mythical place where their kind can daywalk, but what no vampire knows is that the city of eternal night actually exists, and its name is New Orleans. I love books set in New Orleans. For centuries the Fae have protected the city from vampire infestation, but when the bloodsuckers return, the fragile peace in New Orleans begins to crumble. Carefree playboy Augustine and Harlow, a woman searching for answers about her absent father, are dragged into the war. The fate of the city rests on them, and the responsibilities their Fae blood brings can no longer be denied. Now this could be hit and miss for me. It could go along the lines of being ridiculous, as sometimes it does. The Fae could not be to my taste. I'm again really picky about my Fae books. I find the Fae not necessarily a topic, subject, set of characters that I really get on with. So I'd really like to start this one and see if I like it. So that is 10 books from 10 series that I would really like to start at some point. So have you read any of these? Can you recommend any of these? Where should I start? Which one should I go for? Let me know. Let's chat as always, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye for now, BookTube.